It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show!
Hey there, everybody. It's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name's Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
Liz Newman.
Hello, everybody.
And welcome back, Les Webster.
Yay.
Hello,
Yay.
all.
Yay.
Thank your mother. Thank your father, kids.
Thanks, Dad.
Thanks, Dad.
You were missed. We had a lot of fun with Amelia, but you were definitely missed.
I'm glad you did, because she is a fun person.
Oh, she's a hoot.
She is
And a half.
Right.
At
I
least.
think my sides were hurting so bad by the time we got off of there from just laughing.
I wasn't lying
Were
at
we
one point. My
serious
face
at all?
was hurting
Yeah.
from laughing so hard.
Well, I hope everybody out there is doing all right. So what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
Well,
We all survived the eclipse.
we did. Yes. No talking dogs. Damn it.
As far as we know,
No
the world
superpowers.
is still in existence.
Yes. But that was pretty amazing. I mean,
It was wild.
wow. You know, I'm so excited to see the pictures that NASA will release of it tomorrow. I know they had a live stream going, but they were like in Arkansas or something. And yeah, that was cool, but I think the space pictures are going to give us a little bit better picture of
Yeah,
what was
that's
actually going on here. Because we had clouds, but it was awesome because for at least 3 minutes of the darkness, it kind of broke away where you could actually see what happened and everything looked like it was on fire around it. That was awesome.
Fire.
I geeked out so bad.
That's called the Corona.
The Corona. I normally don't like Coronas.
Well, we've had some bad experiences with Coronas lately. Both the drinking kind and the breathing kind, but I digress.
Yeah. I know my dogs didn't like it. And so, of course, it was kind of like, why? You know? But I got to reading. So if any of you guys are curious, when the moon is passing the sun that way, it creates kind of havoc on its magnetic poles. And that's the reason why we were seeing the fiery flares that we did at times and that kind of thing. So with your animals can feel that more than we do. That's why if you notice, like usually right before a rainstorm or something, your animals will know this before you do because they can sense that difference in the air. So if you had any of your dogs hiding during the eclipse, that is why. We saw it. They actually felt it. So, which to an animal, that's got to be weird, you know. So, yeah, that was pretty awesome, you know. No apocalypse. I'm kind of depressed, but hey. Oh man.
Had to keep working.
Yeah.
Uh,
But today was also the grandbaby's 5th birthday, so this will definitely be a day that she remembers. So.
a date that will live in infamy.
Yep. And she'll always know what she did today. Mimi blotted the sun out for her. Oh,
What are you
man.
teaching that kid?
All about
Right,
perspective.
that I am the awesome.
Uh-huh.
So, not wrong.
She moved.
I am the god of hellfire.
Can't fuck with me and I will block out the sun.
Nothing up a sleeve. Presto. Sorry. No, I'm not.
Oh, really? No.
No.
That's okay.
But I did get to finish watching Invincibles today. I don't know. I hate to say that I'm not impressed, but I was not impressed. With a finale, I mean, maybe I just set this up wrong. Maybe I went in biased. Here we go. But for a finale, you expect, bam. I mean, you're wrapping up everything, and of course there's going to be a season 3. They've already greenlit it. He's writing it, but you'd expect something big to happen to bring you back to the next season, and I just don't feel like we got that. The Argyle brain dude, I keep forgetting what his name is, but the brain guy was set up way too hard. Way, way, way too hard. If you remember in the first episode, I told you guys that they had a cutscene that was like 20 minutes long. It was like a whole nother episode to where they introduced us to this guy. That is the most airtime that this guy has seen all season long, was in a cutscene. Now this is spoilers, so fast forward if you don't want to hear this. The first maybe 5-10 minutes of the show, they like wrap him up and kill him. So you've been teasing this guy. Well, I can't even say teasing, because after we got the cutscene, he pretty much wasn't spoken of again unless it was like a minute and another cutscene or something. So we didn't really know when he was coming back or why the hell they took so long to set up a guy that we hadn't seen all season long or anything else. Well, they ended the episode last week with him, and they started this week with him, and they killed him. So it was kind of like, huh. Okay.
So what was the rest of all that bullshit?
Yeah. And where do we go for the next 30 minutes of this? If that's the end, then, they really should have saved that for the ending, because they did not set up anything that hasn't already been set up for next season. We know what's going to happen, but there wasn't like oh my God, did his dad kill him like we had the first season, So I will say that Kirkman poked at his fans, and that was kind of cute. When he's kind of going through these dimensions and stuff, we, of course, wind up in a world that's kind of like Walking Dead. We wound up in a world that was like his dinosaurs. A lot of his properties got a nod with these extra dimensions. That was cool. If you're a Kirkman fan, that was awesome. I'm glad he put that in there. But there was also one season when he was actually addressed why the animation takes so long and why it would take so long. And it was really funny the way he kind of worked that into an episode. And you could almost see him going, "Get off my fucking back, Liz." This is why it took so long.
I'm sure he said that too.
Right. Oh, I know
probably.
he did. In my head, he did. So, I mean, it's not that it was bad, because I would still recommend to anybody to watch this. I just think that when he took that gap in the middle of it, I almost feel that the show went into a different direction when we came back. We were kind of set up with this brain guy, and that's kind of what we thought was going to be the big bad. And it's actually the Viltrumites, which have actually been the big bad from season 1, So I feel like if that was his villain for this season, he should have played to them more in the finale, and we didn't really get to see much of that. We did get to see Nolan again, so we know what his plans are, but other than that, I will say that he did bring a lot of big glaring plot holes that he had. He did wrap those up and bring those to a close. So maybe if it did what the finale was supposed to do, I just didn't get that bam at the end like you normally get. So still would recommend seeing it. Like I said, it is probably one of the best animated cartoons out right now. spares no punches, pun intended on that one, on this show. I also started, I think me and Brandon had started watching Lucifer when it first came out on CW, I think it was. I can't remember if it was Fox or CW.
CW.
It was CW.
CW. And I had quit watching it for a while. I don't know if it was we found something else during, an off season. But if you remember, Netflix picked it up. And I think they did 3 more seasons, bringing it to a total of 6 seasons for Lucifer. I feel like I'm watching a different TV show. I've hit the point now where I've watched the first 3 seasons, and starting with season 4 when Netflix took over, they kind of took a different turn, like a different tone into the TV show. It was, I don't know how to describe it. It's just a whole different feel. Lucifer's giving like a different vibe than what he normally did. I think the name of the show is Lucifer, but I think they really leaned too hard into his Lucifer character, if that makes sense. Because if I remember this series right, I could be wrong, but isn't Lucifer a spinoff of the Sandman universe? Isn't that where he came from for this? Or am I?
I don't think so.
Okay. Then maybe that's where I'm wrong. I remember reading a Lucifer series, but like I said, I thought it was a spinoff from Sandman. But him and Michael were trying to find a blade that he had been pierced with and couldn't heal. So I've seen him as the devil, but in the first 3 seasons of this, we don't really see him a lot as the devil. We see him more as, he is the devil because he's always going to be the devil. But we see him more trying to adapt to humanity, to being human, to experience this kind of world. Mm-hmm. And I feel like in these later seasons, he'll give fuck. He'll walk around with demon head if he wants to. And to me, that was kind of a weird approach to take after the first 3 seasons. So you can definitely tell that Netflix went in and really messed with the layout of this. I think once they made her fully realize who he was, it took a big element out of the show. Because it was no longer metaphors to her. This was real, and she understood. And I don't know, it just didn't pack the same kind of punch, I'll finish it, because I did start it, but I really haven't liked what Netflix did to it. I'm always glad when they can step in and save a show, but I don't like the way they saved this one.
Well, that seems to happen to a lot of shows when they jump networks. They take the opportunity to make some changes, either to freshen it up or make it cheaper or whatever. It seems like that happens a lot. I have talked about here and recently that I had started kind of watching the Matlock on Pluto TV. I can tell a difference when they went from NBC to ABC.
Yeah.
There is a difference.
It's like the format of it set a little different.
Well, plus the fact that the whole freaking supporting cast changed, too.
Yeah, oh, that makes it real obvious. Doesn't it?
I mean, that's real obvious. It's like,
they've kept the same people with this one. So
they'll change the tone and what was accepted before. It's now it's just that type of thing.
Well, I feel like they're going for the gimmick more of the Lucifer appearance, and the first 3 episodes were more falling in love with his personality and his charm than his devil persona. Which, like I said, I feel so far for the 4th season they really laid into that. Probably the ending of the 3rd. the ending of the third season, we finally see him reveal himself to Chloe and, pretty much tells her, it's always been you, you make me weak. I can die around you. You make me human. And then he goes back to hell. So when it starts back up, it's kind of, I don't know. Like, I didn't really care for, I mean, he is the devil, don't get me wrong, but I don't really care for him as the devil. I care more for him as trying to find his way here and realizing that humanity sucks. It's not just in hell. It's we live in hell, Not, yeah, you know what I mean.
Right.
We have that here.
And another example, it actually also goes back to something you were talking about with Invincible, Buffy. When Buffy wrapped up after season 5, and that was supposedly the series, until UPN comes up and says, "Hey, here's a bunch of money. We're starting up this network. Bring Buffy back." And oh god, season 6 was just a mess.
Yeah.
And then they did the whole thing of, okay, the bads of this season are the geeks. Until, no, it's not really. It's Dark Willow, or as Mike says, it's life itself is the villain. Life sucks.
Yeah.
It happens, and I don't get that. I understand you want to make
the case of like Supernatural. Kripke had only plotted for 6 seasons. He was able to tell his story, his vision, from beginning to end. So once you end something the way that it was dreamed and laid out, it's hard to come back and go, okay, but wait, then you add on to that, because that was never part of the vision. It was never part of the dream. It wasn't planned out as carefully as his first 6 seasons.
Right. Well, it's the same thing with Buffy.
Mm-hmm.
We only planned 5 seasons. So when he was given this opportunity, he was like, well, let's do an episode where they all sing, because that would be great. And
that's what they did on Lucifer, too. They had a singing one. Why did they do that?
Obviously, they didn't watch Cop Rock.
It's a gimmick, right?
Yeah.
So,
I think
everybody
was
shocked that Cop Rock didn't work, too, but that's a different problem. Which is why they keep doing it since then. But anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But you want to talk about another series like that just didn't benefit from another season after it was over, was the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
They wrapped the ending of season 4. I mean, I'm a callous bastard, and I cried at the end of season 4, and it was because it all just fell into place, and everything made sense the way they'd set that up, because they spent like 4 episodes doing it, and then Netflix decides to throw some money at them, and so they make a season 5, and there's no point. There's no reason to do that other than the money.
I've heard a lot of people.
What they did.
I've heard a lot of people talk about that.
Yeah, it legitimately just didn't make sense anymore. There was a I'm not going to spoil anything, but there was a major piece missing, and none of it made any sense.
Yeah. I'll be the first to say I'm totally biased on this. I think Supernatural did a pretty good job, but a lot of people who aren't super fans or, really liked the show, they can tell. They can tell, and usually they were like, well, for some reason I quit watching it after season 6. And it's like, well, yeah, because I'll be the first to admit it changed. Mm-hmm. The whole layout of monsters and Solve It and Over changed, and they started telling us a story. And we were getting a story before, but it never really relied hard on that story. It was more of the monster. So when we go past that point and now we're relying harder on a ongoing story, it did change. And if you don't like that kind of thing, or if you weren't invested in the boys, I can see why people quit watching at that point. Because
It didn't resonate with everyone.
Yeah, they didn't make that shift.
Right.
But there definitely was a big tone change, a big shift there.
Mm-hmm.
But Kripke said he has learned not to shoot himself in the foot like that. So he's not going to do that with the boys. He's kind of kept an open mind. He says he knows how it's going to end, but there's a lot to tell in between that, which is good. He's not limiting himself to 6 seasons. Yay!
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so like I said, I'll continue watching it. Maybe it'll change because I guess Netflix felt they had to explain a bunch of stuff that they didn't really need to explain to us. It was pretty self-evident, but hey, spell it out for the guy in the back, you know. But
Thanks.
I don't know.
Gotta fill the time. Gotta fill the time.
Yeah.
Stretch
Like
it
I said,
out.
with the
Stretch it
singing
out.
episode, and they've done like a little flashback in time, black and white episode, which I basically fast forward till I saw color again.
Ouch.
So, it's, yeah, just tell me my story. Don't put a bunch of filler bullshit in it. Just tell me my story. So yeah, I don't know if it's going to go on for another season or not, because I haven't got to the end of it, but whew, it's going to be a hard watch.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. And then I saw new pictures of Liam Hemsworth as The Witcher, and wow. It looks like they took a picture of Cavill and put like a heavy filter on it. You know? I don't know how they're going to pull this off. I really don't. And I will be watching from the back to watch it set on fire because I do not know how they're going to do this.
Liz.
Every opportunity they had to explain a switch, they did not take. So,
Your bias is showing.
Yep.
yeah. Well,
I'm not
and see,
saying it's not justified at this point, but anyway.
I was going to say, I feel good in this bias because I've only seen pieces of the video game, and I had a friend actually who recommended Witcher to me, and he's read the series and everything else, and so he's like, well, hey, what did you think? And I said, well, I don't know the books, but this is what I think. And he's like, wow, you hit it right on the head of what we're thinking, because there was things that I didn't know were in the book that I thought would have made sense in to kind of make the season make sense. And he's like, yeah, it was in the book. They should have left it in the story. So I don't know. I'm like I said, I'm curious how they're going to do this. I don't see it continuing after this season. And has anybody heard anything of Rings of Power? Have they just like canceled that and said nope, or
Was it ever intended to be more than what we got?
yeah? Remember, that was the whole big thing. They approved like 6 seasons and gave them billions of dollars. And if not, there's some really big cliffhangers that show left on. There was things that they had set up that they said they were going to tell us. And yeah, but I'm wanting to say we've already gotten 2 seasons of The Boys and Invincible in between all of Rings of Power, you know.
I also think it took them an inordinate amount of time to make that first season, so it might be a few years.
Yeah.
I don't
But, you know,
expect a yearly basis on that one.
When they were shooting it, though, they kind of kept us updated. You know, pictures from the set or something. But
Well,
it
then
seems
maybe
like
they haven't shot the second one yet.
Wow.
I don't know. I've heard nothing, so I don't know for sure. I don't know anything.
Yeah.
But
To me, that's just kind of weird that we haven't heard anything.
I mean,
You
I
know?
also think I know where it could go from there, from where they went. But I don't know anything about what they're really planning or going to do, or if they're doing anything.
Yeah. Huh.
If they're doing anything, they're keeping it very hush hush, which
Very
I
hush
don't know if
hush.
anything but the Tolkien estate could do that. But anyway.
Well, I
see.
just looked it up, and it says season 2 of The Rings of Powers is set to premiere in 2024, building on the triumph in initial season. I don't know if I'd call that a triumph, but okay.
Depends on who you're talking to, but anyway.
Right. The production for season 2 was completed before the strikes, and there's steering clear of any potential delays. So I guess we'll see this soon.
I guess the strikes stopped it. Interesting.
Yeah.
That explains.
That's what it was saying. The production for season 2 was completed before the strike.
Oh, all of the production. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So it shouldn't have had any delays for that reason.
But remember,
there are other reasons.
But remember, all the networks held back their new shows because they didn't know how long the strike was going to be.
Yeah.
So that's probably part of it right there.
Maybe so.
Because there was a very limited new premieres last fall. I mean, all the new premieres happened after the Super Bowl.
It happened in the spring or winter.
They literally happened. Yeah, a lot of them happened right after Super Bowl. I mean, that was who had the Super Bowl? Was it CBS? I mean, that was their biggest thing. It's like all their new shows were coming out the week after. So yeah, they held off just in case the strikes went a little bit longer. So
yeah,
I have no idea, but I would probably say late summer, early fall. At this point,
to say that's when the last one came out.
And some of that will depend on how much they decide to publicize it.
Sure.
I mean, they pubbed the shit out of the first one, but I could see them scaling back on the second one.
Probably. Yeah.
I mean, before, for Amazon, every time you opened Amazon, whether it was video or not, there it was. Yep. You know, every movie you watched, there it was. So,
so we'll see.
We'll see. Like I said, there's some good storylines in it. I'm very excited to see where they take this. Mm-hmm. I hope they change the tone of a couple of characters, but all in all, and the scenery, wow. I mean, it's hard to fuck up New Zealand, but scenery was on top. I mean, you can definitely tell where the budget went.
Yep. It looked good.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we'll see. Like I said, if I hear anything, I'll throw it out on our Discord.
Yay.
Looking forward to that.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, Mikey.
Oh gosh, now I'm all geared up for Rings of Power.
You're right.
No, I liked it. I'm down for season 2.
Yeah.
I'm actually a little surprised Liz hasn't pushed me more on backstory, but anyway.
I need to watch it again so we can have our talk.
Yeah. I may need to watch it again too at this point. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yep.
But speaking of watching old things, I managed to watch a movie, an old movie, because that's how I roll. Getting me to watch new stuff is difficult. Just ask Liz. It took me a year to watch friggin' Rings of Power. But anyway.
Yep. With light pressure.
Light my ass.
Let me get a lighter.
Yeah, no kidding. The movie I watched was The Day of the Triffids.
Yay!
Which is from 1963. And it's a fun little movie. I liked it. I thought it was a little slow to develop, but generally speaking, it was very entertaining. I mean, it was interesting because it's kind of a monster movie. And I know spoilers for a 60-year-old movie, but I mean the nutshell description of this movie is it's plants from outer space take over the world, or try anyway. So yeah, you get this really cool meteor shower, apparently across a good chunk of the planet. This one night in whatever year this is set in, it's modern day-ish for when it came out. So I mean, they didn't have to dress up sets much. And so the next morning, everybody who saw any part of the meteor shower in the world is blind. Fortunately, the star of the show, Howard Keel, had just had some sort of something done to his eyes, so he'd had his eyes covered for like days, and he was scheduled to get his bandages taken off that morning, and he's like trying to figure out why nobody in the hospital he's in is answering him when he calls. And so he finally just cuts the damn bandages off himself, and fortunately his eyes are fine, and he starts wandering around and seeing that everybody is blind. And nobody has any idea what's going on at this point. So he's a sailor, and so he heads back to the port where his ship is, and everybody's gone, and planes are crashing and shit's on fire, and people are running around screaming and running into things because they can't see anything. And he ends up running into a little girl who can see for some reason. I don't remember if it explained why she could see. I think she'd been kept in her room all night or something. I don't remember. It wasn't important, but she could see. And so the two of them they're taken off to go find civilization, and they listen to radios when they can, and so there's rescue efforts going on, and they end up cutting across the channel and driving through France, and they meet up with some other people. They meet up with a house full of people that are mostly blind. There's a couple of them that can see, and that ends up ending poorly, and they grab there was one person that survives with them, and they leave, and they end up going to Spain to catch basically the last submarine off of Europe, essentially. And there's kind of a side story going on with a couple of scientists who are stranded on an island by themselves in a lighthouse, and they end up capturing one of them and one of the plants, and at the very end figuring out how to kill it. But so it's this fun little monster movie. It's kind of I don't know what a good parallel would be. But I mean, the deal is that humanity is saved, and yada yada yada, because it's the 60s and that's how movies worked back then. Would be interesting to have a different ending for this in a retelling now, but generally speaking, I like this movie. It was a lot of fun.
And what'd you watch it on?
I watched it on Tubi.
Tubi.
I watch a lot of stuff on Tubi.
Say there's been a lot of posts, some good stuff on Tubi here lately.
Mm-hmm.
And didn't Roku just buy them?
News to me, but I don't watch that sort of thing usually. Maybe.
I think Thomas posted it or something.
I don't remember. I'm sure I posted something.
He posts
but
a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay. Les, how about you?
Well, first, I think Day of the Triffids was fun. No doubt about it. I remember that from when I was a mere infant. So, yeah, if you get the chance, pull it up and watch it. So it's different, but it's pretty astounding too as to what they did. The special effects are not all that good, but you can live past that. That's the difference.
They're not good, but they're not that bad either for the time. So yeah,
Right, exactly, for the time.
And they're dealing with like human-sized plants that are like walking around. So I mean, it's half the time it's dudes in suits, and other times you can see the wires. But you know, it's a movie. Let it go, man. Let it go.
For God's sakes, let it go.
Let it grow.
What I did was not much. I've been like Thomas and just kept watching Matlock just to see the actors. And we've talked about that before. You get to see some really fine actors in there. And you go, oh, I know who that is. So that's about it for me.
Cool.
Yep.
Well, for me, and I kind of teased it a little bit earlier, talked about, testing your bias and all that. I don't know about y'all, but I've been getting the emails about it, and I would say, yeah, I need to check that out and forget. But I got another one this past weekend, and it was from Tubi, and them promoting all the superhero movies and shows that they now have. I'm like, okay, let me check this out. I did this last night. I kind of looked around a little bit. So I sat and watched Black Adam.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. What'd you think?
That good, huh?
Well, I don't hate it. I don't know if I can say I liked it. I mean, it was okay. I'll go ahead and do the positives. I loved the Justice Society. I loved the characters. I loved the actors. But then again, I got a personal bias for Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate. I loved it. I really wanted him to be Doctor Strange, but Dr. Fate will work as well. I thought they were handled pretty well for the most part, except for the whole thing with Atom Smasher. Obviously, this was early days of Atom Smasher and Cyclone as heroes, but somehow Cyclone has her shit together and Atom Smasher did not. He wasn't a completely fuck up, but he did a couple of things to the point where Hawkman's going, we're going to have a talk when we get back to the base. That type of shit. But for overall, I liked them. It would be nice to see them in a movie on their own, which is not going to happen now with the whole DCU now. My concern was the handling. My concern going into the movie, I'll say that much, was the handling of Black Adam himself. Now, I kind of knew that Dwayne Johnson really wanted this to be a vehicle for him. He wanted Black Adam to be a hero. He wanted a franchise. And I'm like, that you don't know the character then.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the thing that was interesting about the movie is they kind of deal with that throughout the movie. the people of, I'm going to mispronounce the country, Kanda, or I don't know, something like that. Camden. They wanted Black Adam to be their hero, but he's saying, "I'm not a hero." I mean, he was coming out. He fought it throughout the whole movie, and basically at the end of it, he's like, "Well, I'm not going to be, it's more or less a happy ending, but he's still saying, I'm not going to be a hero, but I'll be your protector." And I'm like, okay, so they were trying to treat the character similar to Namor the Submariner. The thing is, and of course, I'm coming from someone who knows the comics, not extremely well, but I do know. Black Adam's he has been a villain just up until the last 20 years or so. And then that's when they start trying to do this whole anti-hero thing. Namor has had that from the get-go. Remember, Namor fought the Axis in the 40s. So he was a hero then. It wasn't until Stan Lee and Jack Kirby got his hands on him in the 60s and made him a villain to Fantastic Four and some of the others that all of a sudden he's a villain, and then he starts kind of crossing that line. Okay, well, I'm not a villain, but I'm going to do everything to protect my people and protect my kingdom. That type of thing. So it's already ingrained in the system for decades. And here they're trying to throw that in on Black Adam himself. And I'm just like, I don't know if I can swallow that. Because he's always been a bad guy. So that was something I was trying to fight. Although I do appreciate the fact that they were dealing with it. They weren't just going to go ahead and say he's a hero and he's going to take on the mantle and be the good guy and all that kind of stuff. They actually kind of dealt with it, and he fought with it, and all that kind of stuff. So I appreciate them doing that. And like would I go on my way to watch it again? It's over 2 hours long. Probably not.
Yeah.
But I don't hate the fact that I watched it. I didn't hate the film, which was more than I thought of before seeing it.
More than you expected.
It was more than I expected.
Well, for me, his ego when he promoted this movie, and basically he made it sound like DC was going to bow down to The Rock. It was kind of like, eh.
Yeah, I think that was part of. I think that fed into some of my being reluctant to watch this.
Yeah. Because to me, it was just, like I said, just reeked of ego, and it was like, wow, you don't even know the character that you're playing, and he's all like, oh, I researched this guy, and he's me, and it's like, nah, no, you haven't. No, yeah.
He looks like you, but he's been looking like you before you were even born, so just drop that.
Yeah. You happen to look like the guy, but...
And then the other thing, I mean, I already knew it in advance because, once again, he promoted it before I even saw the movie. And spoilers to those who have not seen it and are not aware of this. There was a mid-credit scene where Amanda Waller made her presence known and said, okay, well, you broke out of my prison, which, spoiler alert, he did. But this country is now your prison. If you step outside this country, we will deal with you. Mm-hmm. And he says something essentially to the fact that there's no one on Earth that can handle me. And she says, well, we have people who are not of this earth that can deal with you. And at that point is when Cavill shows up as Superman and saying, we need to have a talk. And that's how it ends. But I knew that was coming because he was talking about wanting a Superman versus Black Adam movie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how about a Shazam versus Black Adam? Because y'all are supposed to be mortal enemies.
Right. That would have made more sense. But see, for The Rock, Shazam was too B-list for him. You know, he's better than that. His guy was going to take on the Trinity. I mean, like I said, it was just major.
I understand. I understand.
You would have thought he was playing Superman with the way he was talking and stuff. And it's like, no, dude, you're Black Adam. I mean, you know,
So,
most people don't even know who you are.
Right. But, like I said, it wasn't horrible. It was okay. I mean, especially for 2 hours, because, I mean, if I was really hating it, I would have stopped it. It's not like I was at the theater.
Yeah.
So I watched it all. I had some issues. But it was nice seeing Amanda Waller not being played as a villain like they're doing in the freaking comics right now. I don't understand that crap. I mean, first they did the Max Lord, now they're doing the Amanda Waller, and I don't get that. But anyway,
they did that on Peacemaker too.
It's like, okay, she's conniving, she can be deceitful, she can be.
Well, she's the good guy who does what the good guys don't want to do.
Right.
You know, it doesn't make her a bad guy. It just sometimes she doesn't see the line. You know.
Well, and that's fine. I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with that because that's basically how she's been handled from the get go.
Right.
It
also touches on that anti-hero thing again.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I agree with Thomas though. I wouldn't even say anti-hero because like in Peacemaker, to me right now, unless James Gunn changes direction, she's just pure villain. There's no good redeeming quality for her. She threatened to kill people with bombs in their neck, not because there was a job that needed to be done, but because she's a bitch, you know, and it's like that's not the Amanda Waller that we've known, you know. Like I said, she was willing to do what others wouldn't do, but that didn't make her a bad guy. She just saw things a little differently.
But the way that she's being handled in the comic books, she's taking the further step because her whole plan now is to eliminate everybody who has a superpower.
Yeah.
So she wants to get rid of all the heroes in addition to all the villains. That's a very villainous thing to be doing.
That is. Yep.
And this has been checked off by the higher ups on DC. This is what they want her to be doing. And I'm like, that's bullshit, man. You know, you got plenty of villains out there. You know. So anyway, back to the film. I mean, it was okay. It was okay. The thing that kind of surprised me while I was watching it, I remember, and I agree to it. I'm sure it was mentioned in some of the other episodes, where a lot of people complain about all the damage that Metropolis and Smallville incurred in Man of Steel. But everybody was so freaking silent about the damage that country took from him. And it was just him. It's not like he was fighting 3 or 4 people who have the same power set as him. He's taking out terrorists. He's fighting an intergang, but he is literally destroying buildings everywhere and using the lightning and all that kind of. He's doing so much structural damage, but no one complained about that. I don't remember anybody but complain about that on social media. I'm like, that seems a little hypocritical. Now, granted, he's not a superhero, so yeah, I mean, it's bad, but still.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Really any of the heroes, though. You know,
I've
never understood how they tear up the town for one guy and everyone cheers and it's like, look at your town. Was it worth all that? How many people died in those buildings? They had a comic where I think it was the Power Rangers, and Zord comes in and he's like, I'm going to tear the town up, and they fight, and he was like, okay, you did it for me. And he leaves, because it's like, well, what am I here for? You guys knocked all the buildings over.
Yeah, so.
Right, which is all I wanted in the first place.
Right, thank you.
So, I don't know. I mean, I like I said, I don't regret watching it, but it's not something I'll watch again. And that's sad because, like I said, I enjoyed the Justice Society. I would love to see a movie with those characters and some more, but that's not going to happen more than likely, because it seems like the only actors Gunn's bringing back into this new universe is ones that he's had dealings with. So I don't know. Liz, have you seen the movie?
Yes.
What are your thoughts? Do you disagree with what I said?
I agree in a lot of statements.
Mm-hmm.
I think, to me, it was more of a rock posing type of movie.
Oh yeah, it was a major stroke off to the Rock. That's what it was. Yes.
And I know he is box office, but to me there was too much of the box office feel instead of down to earth. Let's just go and blow up everything we can. The idea of the Justice Society being there, I thought was a nice touch.
Mm-hmm.
I did not like how it ended. I thought that was a bit much. Because I enjoyed Dr. Fate a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But, sorry, spoiler, but he gets offed. And that did not sit well with me. Because that, to me, meant no chance for another movie with him.
Well,
Granted,
Pierce said he could come back, but they're gonna. I don't know. They'll have to explain that. Who knows? But then again, it's DCU. It's not the Snyder verse realm. So they can start off brand new. They can bring him back and maybe do some of the stuff that he did in that film. Maybe they can do something different. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes, I enjoyed him as Fate, and I was pissed off when they killed him off. I thought it was interesting how they handled Hawkman. They don't really touch on any of the kind of the reincarnation, the Egyptian side of him.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not necessarily the alien cop from Thangar version either. He just happens to have all this tech. Happens to have a pretty awesome spaceship, which when we first see that whole thing was bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
How basically the courtyard in front of his mansion, which happens to be their headquarters, just all comes apart in 500 pieces so the ship can come out. I was like, that's a little much.
Mm-hmm.
Right, you're just flexing your CGI at some point.
Yeah. We're doing this because it's going to look cool. The whole thing that the helmet and the wings are basically part of his, I guess you want to say armor or his the plating that he was wearing. That was kind of interesting. The fact that he could come up with a mace, that was kind of tech, and then the mace turned into a battle axe, and then the shield can pop up out everywhere. It was some of this technology. I was like, okay, that's kind of cool, but
But how much are we just turning Hawkman into Iron Man here?
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of that to it. But the actor, right, and I can't remember his name right now, was Adrian. It's like Adrian Hodge or something like that. He was good. I liked him. I thought he did the character as well as that character was presented. I thought he did a good job. I liked the actress that played Cyclone. I liked the guy who was playing Atom Smasher. They almost went borderline with the whole oh shit, yeah, this is my first assignment and I'm screwing up, but give me a chance, that type of thing. Like the whole thing, he's running to the fight and then realize he's running in the wrong direction. And they're like, really? And he's tall. He's a giant at this point. It's like you can't see where all the shit's going down. You kidding me? Okay. Anyway, but I'll definitely check out some of the other films because they do have the Batman, which I have not watched with Robert Pattinson.
I liked that one.
So I want to check that out, and I want to check some of the other stuff, and they have some of the shows, so I'll probably take a look at those. All on Tubi.
Cool.
Okay, let's get into this week's discussion. Surprise, surprise, we have a guest again. For a show that does not have a lot of guests, this is our third interview in a little over 2 months. But hey, we had a great time with this one. Longtime listeners know we've had him on before, David Pepose. Came on to talk about his new book, Space Ghost, which is coming out May 1st from Dynamite Comics. Just trying to catch up because we hadn't talked to him in a couple of years, and man, we had a fun time. And it's so cool to talk to him because he's such a cool guy, and we're all rooting for him.
Mm-hmm.
So
we'll always have fans here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So with that said, let's get into the interview. We are here with I guess we haven't had on in a while, but we're happy he's here now, and he's got some great stuff to be talking about. He's got a new series starting up. I believe it's May 1st. It hits the shelves.
Yep.
Space Ghost, and I'm talking about David Pepose. Thank you for coming on, sir. And how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm excited. I know it's been a minute since last we spoke, but I'm excited to catch up and to talk with you about all things Space Ghost, coming out May 1st from Dynamite Entertainment.
Matter of fact, I think last time we were on, you were promoting your Kickstarter for the OZ.
Yeah, which we'll be returning to Kickstarter very soon.
Awesome.
Our third installment.
That was a question I was going to ask.
So
yep.
We already got that out of the way.
Cool.
You've done so much in between there.
Yeah, I was gonna talk about that sandbox you've been playing in the last little while. But let's go ahead and start talking about Space Ghost. How did this come about?
Sure. Yeah, well, I've been on Dynamite's radar for a little while. Every time I had a new book come out, I would email Nick Barucci over there. And so having worked on Punisher and Moon Knight City of the Dead over at Marvel, Dynamite thought that I might be a good fit when they acquired the license for Space Ghost. So editor Joe Rybant, he approached me at New York Comic Con just as they had announced their new partnership with Warner Brothers Discovery, and he let me know, hey, we're looking to cast a creative team for Space Ghost, and you're at the top of our list. And I was really excited to take on the project. I felt like this was a character that had so much potential that had only really been explored in the original series, the original cartoon, in like 5-minute increments. And Space Ghost was designed by the legendary Alex Toth. I like to describe him as what if Batman fought crime in the Star Wars universe. I was over the moon to be able to give my take on the character and his universe, and Dynamite and Warner Brothers were really excited by it, and so we've been off to the races ever since.
So have you been given carte blanche on how, like, in terms of the backstory of him and all that?
Within reason, of course.
Right.
Having watched all the original episodes of Space Ghost as well as the Space Stars revival of 1981, it really struck me that there's no continuity or backstory. Like I said, with Space Ghost, really just operated in 5-minute chunks, and so that was the first question I had asked Dynamite and Warner Brothers. I said, there's really no backstory here, and would it be all right if I kind of filled in those gaps on my own? And they've been very accommodating in that regard. And have really encouraged me and artist Jonathan Lau to kind of like follow our instincts and follow our hearts a bit, to really kind of populate Space Ghost universe and to create kind of an emotional through line across the narrative that still allows us to kind of explore many of the different facets of his universe.
Right. And I'm glad you mentioned Jonathan Lau, because when I first heard that he was attached, my first encounter of his artwork was the $6 Million Man series.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that was some really impressive art. So
he's fantastic. I was keyed into his work when he teamed up with Kevin Smith on Green Hornet back in the day. And so, I've known Jonathan to be a real powerhouse for a long time, and I think he's delivering the work of his career with Space Ghost.
Yeah, I've seen the preview that was released. I'm not sure how long ago, but I saw it in terms and tied with the FOC.
Yeah,
you mentioned, and that looked good. Just those 4 or 5 pages right there, I was like, okay, this is gonna be a fun ride.
Yeah. I mean, Jonathan really, he's able to kind of stick the balance nicely of delivering these kind of big, fun, showstopper action moments, especially tying into Space Ghost and his amazing array of powers. But also he really switches gears nicely to these kind of character-driven, heartfelt, emotional beats, particularly when it comes to Jan and Jace and Blip, Space Ghost's trio of sidekicks. Mm-hmm. So, I think Jonathan really is the perfect partner on a book like this, and that he understands the assignment, that we are sort of course, doing a lot of sci-fi action and spectacle. But this is ultimately an ensemble book. This is very much the story of Space Ghost's ongoing dynamic with Jan and Jason Blip, how they sort of all wind up in each other's orbits. And so, I think Jonathan really understood the assignment, that like none of this works if you haven't fallen in love with the characters. And so I think he's been really working overtime to make sure that these characters are as engaging as we'd like them to be.
Wow.
Basically all the stuff you didn't get with the 5-minute shorts.
I mean, for me, especially, watching all of them, I mean, Space Ghost is fully formed when you first meet him. And as is, he has 3 sidekicks, and he's got his base in Ghost Planet. And for me, I thought that was such an interesting choice that Hanna-Barbera made. It's not like Batman, where it's Batman and Robin, which I think automatically means that sometimes you have stories without Robin. It sometimes it can run the risk of turning Robin into an accessory. Whereas, Jan and Jace, I mean, first off, there's no generational aspect. You're not going to graduate them out and then, bring on a new Jan and Jace. But I think more importantly, like having 3 sidekicks, that feels very pointed. That feels like, that becomes like an integral part of the character. And I think at the time, my read on it was they wanted to give younger viewers a point of view character that anybody could latch on to. If you're a young boy watching Space Ghost, you can glom onto Jace, and if you're a girl watching Space Ghost, you can identify with Jan. And I think that was kind of ahead of its time back then. And of course,
if you're a space monkey watching it, you can glom onto
Blip. Yeah. Well,
Mine was always
Blip
the
is such
monkey.
a specific choice that, like, if you don't include him, it's like having a sundae without the cherry on top.
Right.
Right.
But it occurred to me that, like, well, back in 1966, nobody questioned it. It was just the style of the time. But, in 2024, I was really curious, like, how did they wind up in Space Ghost's mission? How did they become his sidekicks? And that really struck me as like a really cool emotional through line for this whole series. Without spoiling too much, I think Space Ghost and Jan and Jace, they all come from some degree of tragedy, but I think they're complementary tragedies. And so I think bringing them together, it's a really cool way of watching them kind of, there's some friction at first. I don't think Space Ghost's mission is necessarily, or his world is not necessarily geared towards children. And meanwhile, I think these kids are kind of bringing him out of his shell. And so that's the thing that was really exciting to me, was to kind of get to write that ongoing evolution of how, like, these orphaned rescues wind up becoming not just trusted sidekicks, but kind of a found family in their own right, and really kind of forcing Space Ghost to really kind of reckon with his own humanity again.
Cool.
Yeah, that's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
Honestly,
thank you.
It gives you a chance to feel something with these characters.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, that's the thing that I am always trying to get at with my work is I want them to feel something, and I think for this really kind of leans into a lot of the same DNA from some of my favorite books, things like Spencer and Locke, things like Savage Avengers. I think having that kind of core, that core of sort of mutual kind of love and caring, amidst the darkness, I think is a theme that I always like revisiting. And for Space Ghost, I'm really able to lean into that in a really cool way, where we're able to kind of juggle, this is a traditional superhero take. So we are, of course, have the moments of action and drama and stakes and tension. But I think we're able to kind of add in a nice layer of contrast by, because of Jan and Jace and Blip, is that we're able to sort of thread in, the warmth and the wonder and the humor and the heart. And I think that really kind of, it makes this book a real gift for a writer like me, where it really allows us to kind of run the gamut in an organic way, but still always kind of touching back on those core themes that are about making the audience fall in love with those characters.
Now, will we still see some of the villains that are known from
Yes.
Space Ghost?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
When I was structuring this book, I was taking notes from a lot of the books that I really enjoy right now. There are books like Jed MacKay on Moon Knight, Ryan North on Fantastic Four, Steve Orlando on Scarlet Witch. And the thing that really stood out to me, the things that I thought those books had in common, was the fact that they were really primarily done in one stories. And so that's going to be the way that we structure a lot of this book, primarily through done in one adventures. So that way, every month, if you're reading Space Ghost, you're going to get a self-contained, satisfying adventure. But also that way, it allowed us to really kind of do the world tour of Space Ghost villains. For those who haven't watched Space Ghost has a rogues gallery that's honestly every bit as iconic as Batman or Spider-Man or The Flash. Alex Toth was just throwing fastball after fastball, and so you have characters like Zorak or Brack or Metalis, they all came together in the Council of Doom. So you have all those villains. And for me, the one of the most fun elements that I've had in Space Ghost is being able to take those vibes from the cartoon and then figure out, how do we elevate them? How do we push that even harder? How do we add in new wrinkles to sort of like organically populate all these villains across this shared universe. And so, yes, you're going to be seeing all the villains that you would come to expect, and a couple of deeper cuts that you might not. But yes, Dynamite and Warner Brothers has been very generous with our runway. I've already got a little over a year's worth of story planned, with room to slot more in if the demand is there. So yeah, I'm very excited for people to kind of get to see that, and to really kind of watch as Space Ghost and Company kind of rack up adventure after adventure after adventure, because I think there's a whole generation of people out there who don't know who the character is, or they only know him from his Coast to Coast years. And so for me, I thought kind of racking up those adventures as quickly as possible was the best possible way to really kind of maximize that investment in the character.
I like that. I like the one and done ideal too, though, because I think a lot of times people are kind of scared to jump into a series because they're like, oh, what have I already missed? But basically you're saying this will always be like the beginning, or not the beginning, but
you'll always be able to jump in. And for me, it was also about, reclaiming the power of a cliffhanger, because I think so often when you're kind of breaking things up across, a 5-issue arc, it can be, I think it can sometimes be to diminishing returns. So for us, we really wanted to make sure that the small handful of times that we plan on, doing a 2-parter, or even maybe the rare 3-parter, that means, Space Ghost is in it. He's in dire straits. He's going to have to fight twice as hard to fight his way out. And I think I was really convinced of the power of a 2-issue storyline. I did a 2-part story in Fantastic Four last year, and I thought that structure was really interesting. And I think it really is a nice way to kind of maximize the punch of a cliffhanger, just by that 2-part structure. So we'll be saving that for kind of some of Space Ghost's most dangerous villains, where, Space Ghost and Jan and Jace are really going to be back up on their heels, and are going to have to dig in deep if they want to make it out alive.
That kind of leads to me to a couple of questions that had popped in my mind. Well,
sure.
One is, obviously this is planned to be ongoing as long as the sales are there. There's not a set number of issues like 4 or 12 or something like that. Well, this is going to be ongoing.
Right now, I have a set beginning, middle, and end. Dynamite asked me to sort of plan a year to start. So I have that planned. But, the thing is there are as many villains as we are throwing into the mix. There were a small handful of deeper cuts that I didn't want to burn them in a cameo, but I thought were kind of, I had to kind of triage which villains I was going to use over the course of this run. So I have a few more in my back pocket if the demand is there. But honestly, I think is the fact that Dynamite came to me and said, "Listen, how's a year to start?" That's about as ongoing as it gets in the business right now.
True.
I think unless it's a long-standing legacy title, I think it's just that's kind of the nature of the beast right now.
Yeah. Unless you're Batman, everything else.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless
it's a long-standing legacy title like Batman or Amazing Spider-Man. But honestly, I was really thrilled, just because right now the runway that we have planned for this book it's the longest run that I've ever done. And I think by doing that and leveraging the done-in-one structure, it's really letting me kind of make the most out of it. So I'm really kind of digging into these characters deeper than I have just about anything else.
Right. And my second question is, you talk about bringing back all the classic villains and all that. Are you creating new villains for the book? Or not right now? Okay. Or I can't answer that right now.
No, I mean, it's one of those things that Space Ghost. There are so many great villains that I would feel it would feel wrong to not use existing villains when possible. But yeah, I mean, some of these villains, some of them are fairly obscure, so those are kind of getting a fresh coat of paint. There's one villain in particular who will be showing up a little bit later, who he is a reference to another villain from way back, but you probably won't recognize it, so he might seem like a brand new character. But yes, so we are using existing characters throughout, but some of them are going to be a little bit of a departure. But I think for us, really, there are so many good characters that it would seem like a waste to skip any of them.
Sure.
So for me, it was really kind of just how do we drill into the core of like what I think is cool about these villains, and then how do we play that up?
No, totally understand.
So what I'm sort of hearing here, and maybe I'm reading into it, but I'm hearing, no, we're doing existing bad guys for the first year. If we get a second year, all bets are off.
Maybe. The thing is, honestly, I mean, there are the villains that we're using, and then honestly, there's a wish list of other villains that we're not going to get a chance to get to because they're not, sort of they're not the bigger names that I felt like I absolutely needed to get in there.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, if I write the book long enough, I'm sure I'll run out of villains at some point. Then never say never.
Now, I don't want this question to be rude.
No.
But over the years, we've kind of gotten two different kind of space ghosts. We have the smart one from the cartoons, and then we kind of had the spacey ditzy on Coast to Coast.
Sure.
Which one will yours follow? Will he be like the smarter one, or?
Yeah,
I don't want to say dumb, but
no. I mean,
Sure he did.
Space Ghost Coast to Coast, was taken as like, as a sequel to, the original Space Ghost. And so I would say tongue in cheek that he's not in his talk show days yet. But to be real with it, when I talked with Dynamite and Warner Brothers, the first thing I asked was, I was like, are we looking to lean into Coast to Coast? Because I don't know if I'm that guy. And we all kind of were on the same page that like we're looking to reclaim the character. We're really looking to try to bring him back to his roots, and to take kind of the same vibes and energy from the original series. And the original Space Ghost was very much a product of its time. It came out the same year as Adam West's Batman, so there's a lot of the Silver Age energy and a lot of the Silver Age camp. And so for me, the question was, how do we take the archetypes that Alex Toth gave us, and how do we kind of reintroduce them to a brand new audience in the year 2024? So Space Ghost is definitely, it's a more serious traditional take. We're not leaning into the surrealism of Coast to Coast, but I think we owe Coast to Coast a great deal in that I don't think I'd be able to write this series without them.
Right.
I kind of feel like an archaeologist
kept them around.
Yeah, they preserved the bones, in amber, and now I get to kind of excavate all that. So, Space Ghost did us a real favor by kind of keeping Space Ghost's name alive. But yeah, I think as a result, there's certainly a group of people who that's all they know. They only know him as a talk show host, and so I'm very excited to kind of bring Space Ghost back to his roots and show people why he's the greatest superhero in the universe.
I like that. Yeah, because when I was talking to my son about it, that's the first thing he said, like Coast to Coast, and I was like, yeah.
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Right character, but the wrong tone.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and
but I watched it. I mean, it wasn't. I don't think it was like the classics, but it definitely, like you said, kept his name there, and it did have a lot of the villains come in and out as, guest heroes and that kind of thing. And I think your audience now is going to remember that from their childhood.
Sure.
Like I remember, a different one from my childhood.
Right.
Yeah,
So
the preview that I've seen was written clearly by someone who had no idea there was anything before Coast to Coast.
Yeah.
They obviously had no clue, and I'm like, dude, you're gonna be surprised.
Yeah.
They will be very surprised.
Speaking of tone, and I hope you don't mind me bringing it up. One of the previews I saw, the write-up used the words grim and gritty, and I saw your response on Twitter/X about that.
Yes, I don't love that description of the book, and I understand how somebody might make that assumption based on just like a couple preview pages, and also like I've written grim and gritty books in the past, and Jonathan Lau is certainly his take is it's not like an Alex Toth, but I would say tonally we're really somewhere between like Batman the Animated Series and Batman the Long Halloween. Like I said, like we're gonna have, of course, moments of drama and tension, and some villains might be a little darker than others, but I think it's hard to call the book grim and gritty when you have Jan and Jace in it. Right. I think those characters bring a lot of warmth and humor every time they're on the page, and they're on the page quite a lot. So I feel like. I understand why people would think a traditional superhero take would be grim and gritty, but I don't think that's the case. I don't think we're any grimmer, grittier than any Batman comic you'd pick up on the stands. But like I said, I think the original Space Coast, is particularly its tone, was very much a product of its time. And so that's something that we are kind of bringing into a 21st century sensibility. But I think I've been really trying to be very careful in that, while we meet Space Ghost, and he's certainly a fearsome figure when we first see him, I'm trying to be very cognizant that this is not Spencer and Locke. This is not a lot of my grimmer books. I think this is probably, honestly, I'd say this is lighter than just about anything I've written in Marvel. I think, honestly, I'd say this is probably one of my lighter books. So I would say don't listen to any headlines that call the book grim and gritty, because I would vehemently disagree with that description.
It's clickbait.
Yeah.
I think people only know they know my work, which I have written some grim and gritty books in the past, and they only see a couple of pages, Space Ghost and Shadow, and so I can understand how they might make the leap, but I would say that that's just it. It's just a leap.
Yeah.
We're a little too wrapped up in the anti-hero thing these days, anyway.
Yeah.
That's just getting imprinted on your stuff. Ain't got
Sure.
nothing to do with. They haven't read the whole thing yet, so they don't know.
Yeah.
They're guessing.
Cool. I think they've picked the right person to do this then.
Yeah, I am. It was one of those things that when Dynamite first approached me, I sort of had that question mark over my head, of why me, and it was as I started rewatching the old episodes that it kind of occurred to me that Space Ghost, while he certainly borrows from certain iconography from a Batman, I do think he's a very different character in the sense that it really is kind of a family story, and seeing the way that he is really kind of a father figure for Jan and Jace, that was really kind of exciting for me. And I think the fact that we get to have all the fun of a superhero universe, but we don't have to share any of the toys. We don't have to think about how's our book going to affect any other number of books. We don't have to think about, is this villain available? We get to use all the villains, and we get to kind of push these characters, and we get to let them really develop and grow in a really cool way. And so, it felt like a dream project. It felt like a way for me to kind of push the superhero genre to the limit in a way that I feel like I haven't really had a chance to do since Savage Avengers. So yeah, I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be able to write this book, and I really hope that so far the response has been really terrific, and so I'm very excited for readers to get to see what we've got planned.
Cool.
Yeah.
So in doing this, has this kind of got you thinking about maybe some of the other superheroes in the Hanna-Barbera universe, maybe taking a try at them?
I mean, never say never. The thing about
you just want to stick with Space Ghost for right now?
Well, for now, I want to make sure that I keep my focus on Space Ghost,
Right.
just because I'm having such a blast with it that I would hate to upset the apple cart. But the thing about this is also Space Ghost. I'm allowed to sort of write about the license that I've got. So I've had a lot of people be like, "What about the Herculoids?" or or what about Thundar? Thundar's rights, from what I understand, are fairly complicated.
Surprise.
We are sticking with Space Ghost. I did ask about the Teen Force at one point, and that is a separate license. I would have loved to have done something with the Teen Force, just because I would have loved to have written an issue about like what happens when Jan meets a boy that's not her brother or Space Ghost. But I don't think that's in the cards. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like Space Ghost has so much just in his universe that like I feel like I'm already spoiled for choice. And also I feel like it would be really difficult to top what Jeff Parker did in Future Quest, where he threw in a lot of those Hanna-Barbera characters. So anybody who says like, oh well, could we see Space Ghost teaming up with X, Y, and Z? Chances are I'll direct them to Future Quest, because Jeff Parker has already done such a sensational job with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a fun read. It was.
Yeah.
I remember that one. And the Scooby team up.
Yeah.
Now, was that the last time Space Ghost has been in print?
Yeah, the last time that Space Ghost was in print was, I believe, in Future Quest Presents, or maybe it was the Space Ghost Green Lantern team up that James Tynion wrote. One of those two. I don't remember which one came out last, but yeah, I mean, Space Ghost hasn't had a solo title in almost 20 years.
Wow.
Joe Kelly and Ariel Olivetti did sort of their Batman Begins style origin for the character. And then ever since the times that he has appeared when he was appearing in a handful of DC books, it was ensemble stuff. It was stuff like Future Quest or Future Quest Presents or Green Lantern and Space Ghost. So it's kind of nice. It really does feel like in a genre that's so often incredibly explored, Space Ghost feels like really kind of the last frontier. It really does feel like unexplored territory in so many ways. And we're really kind of working overtime to kind of dig in into as many different corners of that as possible.
Cool.
I want to say that I am very impressed in what you folks are doing.
Thank you.
And I want to make sure that people understand, you've already stated, but this is nothing to do with Coast to Coast.
Yes.
Which is nothing more than a humor version for adults.
Right. Yeah. I for me, I mean, the best part about this book, honestly, is that whether you know Space Ghost from Coast to Coast or whether you know the original cartoon, this is a brand new jumping on point. You don't have to watch anything in order to understand it. You don't have to read anything. This is brand new continuity. So like, any of the DC stuff it doesn't apply here. And that's for a lot of reasons, both because I wanted to make this like just the easiest possible jumping on point, but also like just like pragmatically and ethically, it didn't feel right to try to crib another publisher's continuity. I don't even know if it's legal, to be honest. So I just did not do that. So yeah, I mean, we're really, like I said, we're trying to bring him back to his roots, because I feel like Space Ghost has all the ingredients of an A-lister. He's got the amazing design from Alex Toth, and he's got the trio of immediately engaging sidekicks, and he's got the just veritable arsenal of awesome powers. He's got his power bands that give him, fire and ice and lasers and force fields. He's got his Inviso belt. He's got the Phantom Cruiser. He's got his base on Ghost Planet. And then, he's got just this incredibly stacked bench of villains. There are a lot of characters at Marvel or DC that don't have a rogues gallery that stands up to, Zorak, Brack, and Metalis, and Creature King, and Moltar, and the Widow, and the Council of Doom. And so, yeah, the fact that, nobody's really, been able to take those ingredients in comic form and kind of play it up, that Space Ghost has either been kind of an origin story or sort of a cross-promotional thing with a bunch of other properties. Space Ghost has never really had that chance to just kind of dig deep and explore that universe. And so I'm really kind of excited to be doing that. It's one of those things that's why I took on the assignment, was I was kind of so stunned that nobody had really done it before. And so, it struck me as a really cool assignment to kind of take the ball and run with it.
When you took on the version, was it mainly you that had the idea? Or
Yeah.
was it them that stated that's what they wanted?
No, there was honestly, Dynamite and Warner Brothers have given me the most latitude I've ever had in a licensed book.
Okay.
They really were just like, "What do you think?" And so I watched all the old episodes, and I had my general trajectory pretty early on of just, what's it like to be, orphan twins at the edge of the galaxy, and then suddenly, you wind up, a superhero, crosses paths with you, and sort of saying, let's follow that trajectory. Let's do like the gauntlet of villains, like Batman: The Long Halloween. So yeah, and yeah, Dynamite and Warner Brothers have been nothing but supportive and enthusiastic, about the plan. And I mean, I'm in the middle of writing issue 5 right now, and I can count on one hand the number of notes I've gotten, and they're all very minimal. I mean, it's the most fun I've had on a licensed book in some time. And having worked on other licensed properties, Conan and Star Wars, I can tell you that Warner Brothers has been a dream to work with. They really have sort of given us a wide amount of latitude to kind of make this as dynamic and dramatic as we can imagine. And so, yeah, like I said, this book, it's been a real gift in a lot of ways.
They're letting the creators create.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Sounds
yeah.
promising.
Yep.
Yep. Well, I know it's been really exciting to open Twitter and to see you announce a project after project after project, and it's like, yes,
Thank you.
You go, boy.
Sleep is overrated. I sleep when I can, but yeah, it's been really nice to kind of be able to be pursuing my dream job like this, and so that's what kind of gets me out of bed every day and sort of pushes me to write and sometimes rewrite and rewrite more. But yeah, I think being able to have all these books, it really, sometimes I can hardly believe, the opportunities I've been given, but my goal is to just be worthy of it. And so that's sort of what I get up every day trying to do, and hopefully it'll all work out.
I'm sure it will.
I think so too. I think they finally wisened up and they're like, oh, this
He's not
guy
doing
David.
This guy knows what he's doing.
This is who we need.
So it's nice. It's been really cool.
Yeah, that's nice. Way back, I think you came and was talking about, I think it was the Oz, one of the last shows.
Yeah.
And
OZ.
The OZ. And you had said something, and I'll tell you, it stuck with me, and I've been applying it to TV shows and everything. I think I was complaining about something, and I said the guy just really, I didn't like him. And you had told me, you said, when a writer can make you feel something,
Yeah.
they've done their job. Whether you hate it, you love it, they made you feel.
Yeah.
So now I try to go into things a little bit more open-minded with that, because it's like, I'm not mad at the show. I'm mad, and it's great that they can write something that can make you feel that way. So
Yeah.
I've had that stick with me. So.
Well, thank you for saying that. Thank you for keeping that in mind. Yeah, ultimately, I think that's our goal, is like just to make people feel something. And so, yeah, that's what I'm trying to do in my books. And I think my favorite books are the ones that I think I've been able to pull that off.
Well, I think it really shows through your writing, though. I really do.
Thank you.
Yeah, it seems like you shot off after the OZ, right?
Yeah, Scout's Honor, my book at Aftershock, Scout's Honor, that came out, we announced that shortly after the OZ. And I kind of wrote Scout's Honor and OZ back to back. Yeah, that book really kind of changed my career. That got me on Marvel's radar. That got me on Savage Avengers. I think I had worked with Marvel editors, or former Marvel editors, on Scout's Honor, Mike Martz and Christina Harrington. And so I think them working with me, I think, convinced Marvel that I might be ready for prime time. And so, yeah, so, I've been kind of working there steadily ever since. I'm in the middle of developing something new right now for the Big Two. And, yeah, it's been, it feels like you get drafted to the Yankees. It's such an exciting opportunity. It's been really nice to take all the lessons that I've picked up at Marvel and then be able to apply them as I build up a universe from the ground up over in Space Coast.
Yep. Well, it's really been nice to watch. I think well deserved. So
thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we've been happy for you, man.
Yeah,
it's been a great ride so far.
Yeah, and knock on wood.
Continue to be right.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not. Yeah, believe me, I didn't mean that to sound negative.
He's we're still cruising.
Yeah, it's been. If you told my 6-year-old self, what I do for a living, I'm sure he would pass out with excitement. I feel like the luckiest guy in comics.
I'm sure he wouldn't believe that you would be right. You would have written a Avengers book with Conan in the middle of it.
Yeah, no way. Getting to write Savage Avengers and getting to write Avengers Unlimited, and then getting to write the Guardians of the Galaxy in Avengers Unlimited. I've written just about every character that my childhood self would love. I think the only ones left are in the X-Men line. Or I guess Doctor Strange, because I love that character so much. I think, getting to write Conan, getting to write Darth Vader, it's I can hardly believe it when I say it. And I kind of have those moments when I'm, at a con or signing where I'm like, oh, this is my job. Huh.
This is happening, man.
It sure beats digging ditches. That's all I can say.
Yeah, for sure. Now you can make your character dig ditches.
Yeah. 20 pages digging ditches. Hashtag. I'm kidding. Yeah, it's nice. It's just it's a way to kind of, it's the hardest job I've ever had, but it's also, I think, the most fulfilling. It's a job that I put 110% of myself into. But I'm a true believer. I always have been. And so yeah, getting to give back to the industry that's meant so much to me, it really does mean the world.
Right. And I do want to take this time to point out that you have a series with Mad Cave. It's The Devil That Wears My Face.
Yeah. The Devil That Wears My Face. Yes. Our sixth and final issue is up for pre-orders through next week. That would be April 15th. Yeah, that's been a really fun book to write. That's my very first horror series, and hopefully not my last. It's Face Off meets The Exorcist. It's about a Vatican priest who performs an exorcism on the son of a Spanish nobleman, and unfortunately the ritual backfires, and so he finds himself stuck in a stranger's body while the demon has hijacked his body and heads back to the Vatican to wreak havoc. So it's been a really fun book. Artist Alex Cormack, I think, is one of the best horror artists of his generation, and a real sweetheart to boot. So he and I getting to work together has been a long time coming, but he did such a spectacular job on this book, and I think it's one of the best creator-owned books I've ever done. So I'm very excited for readers to kind of get to see our big finale. We've got a twist coming that I think will make you read the whole rest of the book in a different light. So I'm very excited for people to check it out.
Well, that's always cool. That is I love stuff like that.
I love twist horror.
I love twists too, but I mean the fact that you can go back and read the book and now it's in a different light because we're going to turn the story on its ear a little bit, but in a way that I think is pretty near and dear to me personally, and so yes, I'm excited for readers to see it and be like, oh, that's what he's been teasing the whole time. So yes, can't wait.
I also find it interesting that story is set in 1740.
Yes. I researched every single pope that and tried to figure out sort of what the best time frame for it was. And Pope Clemente died in 1740. He was blind and bedridden. So really it was during a time where the Vatican was sort of on its heels. Their treasury was pretty well broke. Their main figurehead was in pretty dire straits himself. So I thought it was a nice metaphor, for the whole series, just to kind of have this environment where this big power structure, it's a powder keg, and having a demonically possessed priest in the middle might be the match that makes it explode.
Right, hijinks ensue, as it were.
Yes, demonic hijinks ensue.
A good time was had by all.
Absolutely. Or not, depending on how you look at it.
Right.
Yeah, it's exciting.
I'm sad to say that one slipped by me, but I'm definitely going to have to pick that up.
Yeah, tell your local comic shop, have them order the whole thing for you. I think you can order all 6 issues. But yeah, it's a fun one. I'd never written a horror book before, and now I've kind of got the bug. I keep coming up with all these horror ideas, and I have to tell myself you have to do something besides horror. So yes.
You have been warned, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Well, speaking of creator owned, is there any? What's kind of the update regarding? Or is there an update regarding
DOZ?
Spencer?
Oh, Spencer and Locke. Yeah, we're still on hold, unfortunately. We're trying to get the rights back from our delinquent publisher. Unfortunately, George Santiago Jr. and I we haven't been paid for that book in several years. the publisher. Unfortunately, we're not alone in that situation. That the publisher is holding on to the rights. But we're exploring our options to get those back, and the gears of justice are moving slowly, but we feel pretty confident that they will fall in our favor. And once that's the case, I'm very excited to kind of dig back into that world, because I have a third volume planned that I think will be kind of our goodbye to Spencer and Locke, and sort of our way to kind of bid farewell to the characters that gave me a career.
Well, I'm sad to hear that on several fronts, but the thing is that publisher, man, I was a big champion for that publisher, because they were putting out some great content.
Yeah.
And to find out that this has been going on, that just
it's a bummer, and you only know things, in hindsight, and
right.
They were a functioning publisher when I joined. I think things, I think the wheels kind of fell off, leading into the pandemic, and so, yeah, it's a shame, but you live and you learn, and I'm grateful that being able to publish a book, I was able to leverage that into a bigger career. But yes, I would love to get my rights back, since I haven't been paid for it in a while. I feel confident that will happen one day, hopefully sooner versus later.
Right. Well, we hope you get your rights back, and we hope everybody else gets their rights back.
Yes.
It just that just sickens me, because we talk about creators' rights a lot on the show, and we're big proponents that you deserve what you did. So you create these characters, you should have them, you should be paid for them, and all that. I'm not going to get on that soapbox. I'm not going to get on that soapbox. So, yes, I remember you talking about the third volume, and I was so excited about seeing what was going to happen, and just,
And the news kind of broke.
Yeah.
Well, it's also, I want to make sure that book, that we're very deliberate about it, and that we make sure that it's ready for prime time before we start work on it. And so, yeah, it'll take some time, but I'm very excited to dig into it.
Okay. Well, on a slightly happier note.
I'm sorry.
You already?
No.
No.
Oh, it's not your fault.
That's not where I was. No. I was setting up a joke. You've already teased a little bit about the OZ.
Yes, I'm excited to revisit that. We have a good critical mass of art put together, and it's one of those things that with Space Ghost kind of taking off the way that it has, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't cannibalizing one book for the sake of the other. So once Space Ghost has kind of gotten its feet, I'm very excited to launch the next Kickstarter for that. Ruben Rojas has been doing a terrific job. We've got some real fun stuff planned for our big finale. I can't wait to get back into the swing of things on Kickstarter.
Yeah, well, let us know.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll definitely have you on.
You'll hear all about it, I promise you.
We'd be more than happy to have you on to promote it.
Yeah, please.
Hell yeah.
Now, you say fun. I seem to remember you losing a lot of sleep and headaches from Kickstarters.
Packaging shipping books is certainly an undertaking. It always is. But yeah, the Kickstarter fan base is so passionate, and they really do. They are so supportive of creator and creator-owned books. So yeah, I think I love Kickstarter as a platform, and I'm excited to kind of hopefully cross-pollinate my direct market audience and my my Kickstarter audiences. And yeah, I plan on continuing to use Kickstarter for as long as the platform is viable. It's been such a wonderful and welcoming community to me, and so yes, I'm very grateful to them.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Were you going to stick with Kickstarter, or were you going to try to find another publisher for some of your other creator-owned books? But it seems like Kickstarter is the way to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it'll always be a little column A and a little column B, but I think, I think Kickstarter, the Kickstarter community, I think is just as diehard and passionate as the, Wednesday warriors going in the comic shops. And so, yeah, I think it would be, I think they are a demographic that should be catered to more often. So, yeah, I'm excited to continue to do that in addition to my direct market work.
So did you watch the eclipse today? Or were you in line for it?
I was working on a deadline, and so I totally missed the eclipse. But that did not stop me from posting something Space Ghost related about the eclipse. But yeah, I guess I'll have to wait for the next solar eclipse, whenever that's going to happen.
I heard something about 200 years, but.
Oh, okay, well, I'll mark it in the calendar then.
Set an alarm.
Yeah, the next solar eclipse is in the year 2044, apparently. So I'll do better about booking it in 2044. 20 years, I should be okay.
Sure, you can come on to talk about Space Ghost issue 240. I guess that'll be.
Wow, good. Yeah, that's that. Yeah. Space Ghost.
I like that.
Yeah. I'll but
pencil that in.
I'll be like, it's still ongoing.
They won't let me stop. Please help me.
Right now.
But yes, that would be boy, what a run that would be. But yeah, no, I'm very excited. I'm excited for people to get to read this book. Yeah, who knows if the demand is there? Maybe you will see it there in another 20 years. Who knows? Stranger things have happened.
That would be awesome.
Absolutely.
Okay, so once again, Space Ghost #1, May 1st, just in time for Free Comic Book Day. So you can go get your free comics and go buy Space Ghost #1.
Yeah, and you can still pre-order Space Ghost #2 at your local comic shop. You can pre-order The Devil That Wears My Face #6. You can find me. I'll be signing at Emerald Knights Comics and Free Comic Book Day, as well as the Comic Bug in Los Angeles in Culver City the following day. I'll be at a handful of shows this year. I'll be at C2E2 in Chicago in a few weeks, and San Diego Comic-Con and New York Comic-Con. And I'm excited to see everybody there.
Well, yeah.
All right. Well, really appreciate you coming to talk to us, David.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you. Now that you're big and up there.
No.
We'll just know
not at all. Not in the least. But no, I really appreciate you guys having me on the show, and thank you so much for supporting my work, and everyone listening. Thank you so much. I hope you guys all enjoy Space Ghost.
Awesome.
I'm sure we will. Yes.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much, and I have a great rest of your night.
All right. Thanks. You too, man.
All right. Bye.
Bye. And we're back, and it's time for Geek News for You. In this segment, I'll bring a couple of news items to the table for a discussion. And for this week, it is Mike and myself. And Mike, would you like to go first?
Oh, sure. I've got some fun news for fans of the Terminator. So we're coming up on the 40th anniversary, or we're at the 40th anniversary. When did that come out? 82? I guess we're a little past it now. But anyway, 40 years. of Terminator. The cool part here is that Dynamite Entertainment, because we haven't talked about Dynamite enough tonight, has acquired the license to make Terminator comics, which, Terminator comics have actually been around for quite a while. They've been making them, since the late 80s, and various different publishers have gotten a shot at them. And so now it's Dynamite's turn. And honestly, that's pretty cool because Dynamite does pretty good with the licensed stuff that they get a hold of. They've done a bunch of work with Vampirella, and they've done some other really fun stuff like the Betty Page stuff and the Elvira, and well, obviously we talked about it. Now they're gonna do the Space Ghost book. They seem to have a pretty good handle on how to do these things. And there's been, honestly, if you want to get technical, probably some of the best stories in the Terminator universe have been from the comics. Because some of the movies got really effing weird there for a while. But so there's you get people like Frank Miller and Walt Simonson's working on something back at Dark Horse in the 90s. Marvel had a hold of it for a little while. Malibu ran with it for a bit. IDW did some stuff a few years back. Got back to Dark Horse again, and now it's time for Dynamite to take a shot at it. And by golly, I think it'll be fun.
Yep.
Could be.
I think so too.
It'll be nice to see them stretch the stories and not just rely on past fiction.
Yep.
Let's see what they can come up with.
Yeah, exactly.
Because a lot of the stuff when it jumped to a new publisher, it would get its start because there's a new movie for them to do an adaptation of. Well, okay, great, but tell us a new story.
Mm-hmm.
And Dynamite does that pretty well. So I'm not seeing names attached to it yet, but it's okay. I'm sure we'll hear stuff as it comes out.
Right. Cool. Well, for me, it's kind of funny because it seems like we're there's a kind of a similar theme with our news items.
Cool.
J. Michael Straczynski has provided an update for the reboot of Babylon 5.
Ooh.
And he's been honest with these updates. He's tried to keep all the fans in a loop and all of it. But as of, let's see, this is just as of a couple of days ago. The script has been what the hell happened? Has made it out to the buyers as of a couple weeks ago. Some of the delay had been regarding whether Warner Brothers was going to deal with it, but there was also the rumors of Warner Brothers and Paramount getting together, so that kind of delayed things. He says one of the buyers has already responded and saying no, but the rest are still in the process of checking it out. So there apparently is some interest in having this come back. So we'll see.
Okay.
So that's not a lot of an update, but it's
something.
It's something. That's more movement than some stuff where all we get is someone just saying, well, I said this, or this has been discussed, and then that's it. There was actually a script,
right?
That has actually made it in several offices. So we will see. Maybe there might be something here in the next few weeks or months, depending on how quickly they want to move on this.
Right, depending on how long that process takes.
Right.
Because who knows?
Well, because the process. Who knows about the process? Because I mean, they could say, "Yeah, we're interested," and then have him come in and start talking stuff, especially Bucks, and then all of a sudden, things might fall through or whatever. So, but still, movement.
Yep.
There's been some movement.
Sounds like progress.
So.
Yeah.
All right. Any special shout-outs or mentions this week? Obviously, want to thank David for joining us.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll have him on again real soon to talk about the OZ, but I guess that's going to depend on what's going on with Space Ghost and whatever else comes his way, because who knows? He
and the other 40 or 50 projects he's working on right now,
Oh, God.
He's a bit of a workhorse.
Yeah.
He likes to have a lot of irons in the fire.
Yep. Okay, well, let's move on to our regular shout-outs. I want to thank Pop Goes to Culture for allowing us to be part of a great podcast network. There's a link in our show notes where you can check them out. We also want you to check out the fine men and women who've been kind enough to spread the word of the fellowship by retweeting or reposting our links on Twitter/X, depending on whatever you want to call it. The best way to check them out is do a search, #PodernFamily, all one word. Just scroll through whatever catches your attention. Click on that link and download the episode. We hope you have a great time listening to them. We also want to thank Mandy the Martyr for supplying music to our podcast. There will be a link in our show notes where you can check out some of their other pieces of music. And finally, you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We appreciate the support as always. And we value your feedback. Any questions, comments, suggestions, complaints, what have you, please send them our way. Email at thefellowshipofthegeeks.net is our email address. Or you can go to the website, go to the About Us page, and there's a contact form you can fill out. Has been mentioned earlier, we do have a Discord that's free to join. There is an open invitation on the homepage. We do have a section there for feedback. You can post your thoughts there. Social media, we're on Facebook, The Fellowship of the Geeks. On Instagram and Twitter, we are at Fellowship Geeks. If you like to follow our personal Twitter accounts, Mike can be found at MackeyGeek. Liz can be found at LN_geek. Les may or may not be found at Fake Les Webster. And I can be found at TomTCGeek. And from wherever you download our episodes, if you'd be so kind as to rate and review our show, it would be greatly appreciated. Anything else before we say goodbye?
Just thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate you listening.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We appreciate the support as always. Until next time, geek on, my friends.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email at thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,